Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and one of the things I've noticed lately, and I feel like I want to talk about, and it's one of the frustrating things in this community, is that you have vegans who always come into your comments, into your videos, that they're like a non-existent demographic. We're talking about less than 1% of the population, but they're so vocal, and they're really, really bad about just flat lying. Flat lying about things in the meat industry. They actually, maybe they don't realize they're lying, but it's a case of one vegan tells a lie and then 10,000 vegans run around and repeat the lie, and no one even bothers to do any basic research. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And that's the thing, guys, and I'm going to tell even the vegans out there, if you guys want to be persuasive or convince people of anything, you should probably research your facts. And I don't mean research your facts by going to a vegan website. I mean actually get some knowledge about the topics you're going to talk about. And I mean, case in point, I have spent years on cattle ranches. I'm from Texas. My family are cattle ranchers, my dad's family. I have lived on a ranch before for a couple of years. I grew up in a couple different places. I spent my childhood on a ranch. Then I moved to Houston, but we still went to the family ranch regularly. And then as a young adult, I did work on my family ranch for a couple of years. I lived there and worked on it. I know many cattle ranchers, and let me just explain how this works. I see vegans all the time just making stuff up. And it was kind of funny because another Texas cattle rancher who raises cows is one of my subscribers, a regular subscriber and commenter. Even on the Facebook page, and he came under there when the vegans were saying, well, cows only have B-12 because it's injected in them. And he said, really, I don't ever inject any of my cows with B-12. And now that you mention it, being from Texas, I mean, that's something we can talk about right here. They're like, well, they're only getting it because they're injecting it. Humans could just supplement it also. Are you guys really that stupid? I'm going to ask that as a serious question. Do you honestly think cattle have to be given B-12 injections? You know what? I had to actually research it because I don't know anyone ever in the state of Texas who has ever given a cow a B-12 injection. We didn't have any in our inventory. I had never heard of it before. And I lived on a cattle ranch for 2 years, and I have never heard of cattle being given B-12, ever. I had to go online and find out, just because I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You know what it turns out? Places that have really crappy pastures sometimes have to give B-12 injections, particularly during certain phases, like when the mothers are pregnant and things like that, because their grass and the quality of their fields is terrible. We don't have that problem in Texas, and Texas produces an enormous amount of the beef that the rest of the United States eats. Also, we never gave them antibiotics. I mean, if a cow was sick, they got antibiotics. But you know, there was like, oh, they inject them with all this and that, and it's like, no, not really. Some feedlot cows are given anabolics the final weeks before slaughter, but generally that's not always done. It depends. It depends on the person. That is pretty common, but we've covered that already of why that doesn't harm you. But even the antibiotics, we only gave cows antibiotics when they were prescribed by a veterinarian. If you had a sick cow, they got antibiotics, but it's not routine procedure to pump antibiotics into feedlot cattle. Not at all. And they're not given B-12. They're only given B-12 if they have terrible pastures. They have an insufficient diet. And you want to be honest, most cows do fine if you have good pastures and hay. The majority of cows are not like you're thinking of factory farming. I mean, they're mostly free range, at least in Texas. Even on the bigger ranches, they just have bigger acreage. There's a reason we get higher quality meat. You know what? And the cows aren't abused. They aren't mistreated because you know why? Happy cows live longer. Happy cows make more babies. It's in the best interest of the rancher who wants to get the return on their investment. If they want to make the most money, happy, healthy cows make more money. It's in their financial interest. And people have these weird ideas that people who get into ranching are sadists or something automatically. They're generally not. Actually, most of them are animal people. They have pets they love, everything else. They don't mistreat their cows. In fact, their cows themselves are usually a herd, and that herd routinely lives to be 20 years old. Your herd of cows actually have pretty good lives by cattle standards. They stand in a field and they eat grass and they fuck. That's all they do. Now they have relationships and they do have hierarchy, and I'm going to admit cows are relatively pleasant. I like cows. They're relatively pleasant species. They happen to taste delicious, but they're a pleasant species. They have social bonds with each other. They get to know you, but that's your older cows, the ones that you actually keep. That's your herd. And like I said, they have happy lives. So you know what cows care about? Eating. That's all they care about. Eating and fucking. That's the only thing they do. That's the only thing they care about. That's generally the only thing they're interested in. That's it. And because you're dealing with an animal that has to consume so much food, that's generally what the focus of that animal's happiness comes from. And the life of a bull, like a pasture bull, basically has a perfect life as far as a species is concerned, because all he's concerned with is eating and sex. The average bull has sex 20 times a day. And people say, and they're talking about artificial insemination, there's no need to artificially inseminate cows. They seem to enjoy sex. They enjoy it a lot. Like I said, the average bull, like all of our breeding bulls that we had, they had sex at least 20 times every day. Every day. 365 days a year, and they ate. They ate and they fucked. Only time you have problems with bulls and they have a bad day is when bulls, because see, bulls care about two things. They care about sex and they care about grass. Grass and ass, that's what they care about. Occasionally you have a problem because when you're a bull, usually we always ran, most people I know, about 100 head of cattle per bull, right? And his job is to impregnate all those cows every year, all right? That's his job. That's what he does. The problem is that sometimes they're too good at their job and they're obsessed with their job, and occasionally he sees a fence and there's some other cows and he decides his 100 girls aren't enough. So he occasionally wants to jump the fence. Well, invariably, see the problem there? Sometimes they can get hurt jumping the fence. Predators don't mess with bulls, so they don't have to worry about that, but other bulls mess with bulls. So the problem you have, he jumps the fence and he's invading someone else's territory and his herd, and they get in a fight. Occasionally bulls get hurt, occasionally they get killed because they're horny, they jump a fence and they go get in a fight with another bull over his girls. But that's pretty much the life of a bull. They have a pretty good life. Cows, the same thing. Have a pretty good life. They eat grass, they have sex, they make babies. They seem to be pretty content. And, you know, they're pretty content. They form social bonds. They have a hierarchy. All the females seem to have a hierarchy. They know who's in charge. And they have bonds and everything. Relatively pleasant species. Now, as far as the feedlot cattle go, standard procedure, your feedlot cows, just like everything else, they care about food. That's what they care about. They like to eat. Feedlot cattle usually graze in a pasture till they're about 16 to 18 months old. They wean off mom. Mom weans them herself. No need. Usually cows that you're going to eat, you don't go wean them off the mom. It's not some vicious process. She kicks them away and won't let them feed when she decides they're too old. Alright? She weans them. Mama weans them. They eat grass in the field with the rest of the cows. 6 weeks before slaughter, they go into a feedlot. Now, cows, because again, we're talking about a big animal, you need a healthy, happy animal. Healthy, happy cows make better meat. Everyone understands this where I live. You don't stick them in a little cage. You put them in a separate feedlot where there's a few of them in there. They run around and they eat. You give them big troughs of food, and apparently the food tastes pretty good because they will gorge on it. They stand around and they eat and they eat and they eat, and they put 100, 150 pounds on while they're in the feedlot. Then they go off to slaughter. They spend their final 6 weeks in life eating delicious food that they seem to enjoy all day, and that's all they do. They just stand around and eat, because that's generally what cows do. They eat pretty much every waking moment. They sleep standing up, they wake up, they eat. If they're in heat, they have sex. If it's a bull, he has sex every day, all day, in between eating. He chews his cud while he's having sex. That's what they do. Feedlot cattle, they're not abused. They're not mistreated for the most part, any that I'm aware of. I've never observed it firsthand on any ranch I've ever seen or on our own. Because again, if they're happy, they'll eat more. And they like to eat. That's all they really care about for the most part. That's the focus of a cow's psychology. They're not particularly bright animals compared to a lot of things you would think of as pets. They like food, and they like sex. And generally, the food's the most important part. They eat and eat and eat. And that's what the feedlot cows do. They go in and eat. They're slaughtered. It's pretty humane. It's not like we're going in. It's not halal or anything anywhere in the United States. Now, if you guys want to complain about that, you can go to those countries and you can talk to those people and deal with them. That's probably not going to go over very well for you vegans. We don't slit their throats in America. We usually use an air gun. You shoot them in the head. It knocks them out instantly. They die. That's it. They die right there. But again, their throats aren't cut here while they're still alive. That's generally not the standard procedure in an American slaughterhouse. And they don't spend weeks and weeks in this big slaughterhouse with dead cows dying in front of them. Again, feedlots are separate from all that. Alright, feedlots are separate from all that. Usually, the owners of the cows who feed them in the feedlots actually aren't even the ones who slaughter them. They go off to do that, and they're usually slaughtered within a day. Okay, they don't stand around for weeks in some tiny little cage. They buy them at an auction. It's a standard procedure. These cows that have not been given B-12, that have not been given tons of antibiotics, all they've done is eat. They go to an auction. The auctioneers buy them. The slaughterhouses buy them. They put them in a big pen, and then they run them through. And it's time to deal with it. And they don't ever really know it's coming. They don't generally see it coming. Alright, because they haven't been standing there watching other cows been killed like in a horror movie. That's not what it's like. But, you know, again, these people, they don't seem to understand the process here. And they want to say stupid stuff like all of these cows are pumped full of antibiotics. All these cows, the reason they have B-12, they get B-12 from the dirt in the ground. Okay, the quality of the pasture that you have, and then the water that they drink, the pond water and stuff, has B-12 in it. Usually, on big cattle ranches, you have fresh streams and creeks and ponds and everything that you will refill with water if you need to in a drought. You'll run water to those ponds, and they drink water. And they eat grass, and they eat hay. You put out extra hay when the grass isn't plentiful enough to keep them fed. Again, all this nonsense. The B-12 is there because of their diet. B-12 is there because of their diet. People say, well, you know, where do humans? Well, humans used to get it to some extent from your well water, but also humans have always eaten meat. The human species, Homo sapien, and this is an absolute fact, has been a meat-eating species since day one. We have always eaten meat. We've always had access to B-12. And a lot of it did come from water sources in the past, but now that we have cleaner water without bacteria in it, we're a lot safer for it, but we do get less B-12. But we can still get it from our meat the same way that we've always done it also. The cows, most cows, at least none that I'm aware of, unless again you're in really terrible pasture, low quality grazing land, which again you've got to question why someone wants to start a cattle ranch in low quality grazing land. If you're going to be a cattle ranch, you should probably do it in an ideal place. You'll do a lot better financially. They don't give them B-12. The cows get B-12 from the dirt and stuff all in the grass that they eat. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.